Good morning, PrAC members and guests. We appreciate everybody being here for our meeting today. Look forward to some great information and collaboration to be shared out. As it was mentioned a little bit ago, I'm right now at the Galt House at the Kentucky Read to Succeed conference, and so many Kentucky educators are here. The place is just buzzing, and so I appreciate many of you all sacrificing and being here today. And some of you are probably here somewhere tucked in a corner, like I am, trying to do double duty. But that's part of the job. So we'll have a couple of housekeeping pieces. Just please be reminded that if you do speak, remember to announce who you are so that that can be captured for our minutes. And as much as possible, please be attentive and having your video on so that we can see faces. It just makes us be able to interact so much better that way. And I'll try to do my best to mute and things as the conference transitions happen. And hopefully we won't have to deal with too much background noise. But if we do, Miss Stacy will take over and kind of hold us together for our meeting purposes. All right, so we'll get started here. We've got our welcome from our Associate Commissioner of the Kentucky Department of Education, Dr. Meredith Brewer.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, PrAC members. Excited to be here with you today. Dr. Fletcher is on a very well-deserved vacation, so I am happy to join you on his behalf. I know you have a very full agenda today, so I will be brief. I did want to provide two quick updates. As we have spoken about previously, we know that Senate Bill 4 is going to have a really impactful presence in Kentucky as far as principal preparation, and wanted to share that the department is working on what that implementation will look like. SB 4 does have a 1-year implementation opportunity, so we have this upcoming school year to work on developing the content and the plan for the 4-year development program. And as part of that, the department has recently posted a position for a director to oversee not only the development of the content, but also a series of opportunities for stakeholders to provide input on what that training should contain. So I do want to put in the chat the link to that posting. If you or one of your colleagues is interested in applying for that role, that is now available on the KDE website. The second thing you may have seen in the Commissioner's Weekly Update, our education preparation partners have requested feedback on how they are doing preparing teachers. And as principals, you have the opportunity to help us push that survey out. And so in the chat, there is information about that survey. It is for administrators to complete. You will think about any new teachers that you've hired and then speak to the preparation at their particular ed prep program. So you will need to know what EPP prepared your new teachers. That survey will remain open until July. We are thrilled that our EPP partners are wanting that feedback because we always want to be supporting their continuous improvement. So those are the two updates that I wanted to share, but I will be on to address any questions that arise. But unless you have any questions at this point, I will turn it back to the chair.
Thank you so much for your time today. I know you'll be on as long as you can, so we appreciate that. Definitely exciting opportunities, PrAC members, to share out some information and get our voice heard. I know this is high on our priority list as we are constantly trying to attract talent and being able to communicate with our post-secondary partners to have a seat at the table to discuss teacher preparation. I think it's important that we use our platform to speak while we have the opportunity. So I know that this is one that we do have opinions about. So we want to make sure that we capture those opinions and get them to the right folks. All right, at this time, we'll move into our roll call. If you will just respond audibly by coming off mute at that moment. Let's see here. Ms. Jones,
Here.
Ms. Sinclair Morris, Ms. Kirk,
Here.
thank you. Mr. Blythe, Ms. Williams,
Here.
thank you. Mr. Klein,
Here.
Ms. Noakes,
Here.
Ms. Fields,
Here.
Ms. Skidmore, Ms. Roden is excused today. She is out of town with students chaperoning a trip, I think, to Houston. Excellent for her girls basketball team. Mr. Shower,
Here.
I apologize for the mispronunciation there. Mr. Kidd, Ms. Howard, Ms. Estes,
Present.
Mr. Hood.
I'm sorry, I'm here. I couldn't find my unmute.
Okay,
is
was that
Howard.
Ms. Howard? Okay, Ms. Howard is here.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Ms.
I
Spears,
think Mr. Kidd might be here as well. Are you here, Mr. Kidd? There might be an issue with his audio.
okay. Mr. Henderson,
I am present.
wonderful. Ms. Gearhart,
Here.
thank you. Ms. St. Bernard,
Present.
Mr. Guerrera,
Okay.
Ms. Spears is trying to join.
Can you hear me now? I'm sorry.
Yes,
This is Jeremy Kidd. Sorry, I was having audio trouble.
great. Thank you for being here. All right, did I miss anyone? Thank you. At this time, we're going to hear from our principal preparation representatives from the Western Kentucky University and Campbellsville University, as well as Murray State University. I think we've heard from several of them previously, but I'm not sure exactly if they're all going to speak or if they've elected someone. So we'll turn it over to them at this point.
I believe Dr. Wallace is the representative today. Are you here, Dr. Wallace?
I sure am. So thank you all for continuing to allow us to sit in on these meetings. It helps us greatly. Dr. Stacy represents KDE, and so does Dr. Brewer in our UPPI professional learning community group. Basically, we meet several times a year. Those of us who teach ed leadership in higher education in Kentucky, former administrators like you, and that helps us a lot to stay connected with KDE and with P12. So we're very thankful for being invited to these meetings. We do books from time to time, and we're getting ready to embark on our 4th book, which will be advertised within the next several months. We just got started on it, but it will be a book of true stories shared from current or past principals, explaining what we wish we would have known before we became a principal. So Stacy will be advertising that later on. We've been blessed to do these group books as UPPI, as the UPPI group. But thanks again for allowing us to sit in and stay so connected with you folks in P12. And thanks for the great work you do.
Thank you, Dr. Wallace. At this time, PrAC members, I believe you've all had an opportunity to review the agenda. It was sent electronically in advance of the meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
This is
This
Sarah
is Ginger
Williams.
Estes. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. Sorry, this is Sarah Williams. I make a motion to approve the agenda.
This is Ginger Estes and I second.
Okay, a motion's been made and properly second. If you will use the chat to cast your vote of approval. Miss Stacy, are you able to see the chat? Because I can't for some reason.
Yes, yes, and they're populating. Yeah, everyone's responded.
Okay, so guess we have a consensus then.
Yes, all responses are approved.
Perfect. Thank you. So we'll move on to the summary of our last meeting. Again, materials were sent in advance of our meeting today. Do we have any corrections or edits that anyone saw from reviewing the material? Hearing none, the floor is open for a motion to approve our summary minutes from the March 2026 meeting.
Josh Henderson, motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second. Sarah Williams, second.
Thank you. Motion's been made and properly second. If we will cast our decisions in the chat, please.
And I see approve in the chat from all the respondents thus far.
Thank you. Now we're moving on to item 5 on our agenda, legislative updates on Senate Bill 197 and House Bill 257.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for allowing us the time to be with you this morning. I'm Jennifer Stafford. I'm the Associate Commissioner in the Office of Assessment and Accountability. And with me today, I have Shara Savage, who is the Director in the Division of Assessment and Accountability Support. And I just want to, before we get into the presentation, I just want to say congratulations on another successful school year for each of you. Being a principal is not an easy task. I used to say as a principal that I dealt with budgets, busing, testing, staff, parents, and fire drills all before lunchtime. So congratulations, and truly thank you for your leadership, because schools don't close at the end of the school year by themselves. It doesn't come by luck. It comes by a lot of effort with you and your staff. So again, congratulations. And I hope that you each get to enjoy some time away this summer as you begin the summer months and in preparation of the next school year. And as we look to the next school year, I did want to bring you up to date about the Senate Bill 197, and then I'm going to turn to Shara and have a discussion. and she and I are going to facilitate a discussion on House Bill 257, which brings about a new reimagined accountability system. So if we'll go to the next slide, Stacy. I assume you're moving that for us. Thank you. Next slide. So at the end of the legislative session, literally the last day of the session, a new section, Section 15, was added to Senate Bill 197 that did two things. First, it put a restriction on the use of general funds as it relates to a college admissions exam, that put limitations on that the college admissions exam could not be procured unless it was based on the Kentucky academic standards. And then secondly, it called for a new procurement for the college admissions exam. So I know we have both elementary, middle, and high school principals here. So just a little bit of background for the elementary and middle school. If you haven't been keeping up or heard about the new procurement that we had this past year. So just a little bit of history. In 2007, we had written into law that all juniors in the state of Kentucky would take the ACT. So that went on for many years until 2015, when we went over to the legislative body, the General Assembly, and asked them to remove the words ACT from that statutory language and just put in a college admissions exam. So we said that ACT, we had no negotiating power with ACT because they were written into law. So they changed that and said, now it says all juniors shall take a college admissions exam. And we went through a competitive bid, an RFP process, and in 2018, and ACT was awarded the contract. We went through that procurement process again, and in 2025, July 2025, the College Board was awarded a contract to administer the SAT for our statewide college admissions exam. So with that, we have administered for the first time in Kentucky in the spring of 2026, the SAT for our college admissions exam. Then it was very successful. Then we received this, this statutory change. So we got busy and trying to educate people and make them understand that a national assessment such as the ACT or SAT is not based on the Kentucky academic standards. These are national vendors. They sell their products across the nation to different states, and they have developed their own assessment based on their own standards or their own assessment blueprint. So it's not based on the Kentucky academic standards. So we were successful in that. And if you'll go to the next slide, so you'll see that the governor did veto that part that restricts the funds to a college admission exam being related to the Kentucky academic standards, but he did not veto this requirement to have a new procurement. So as you can see that the Kentucky Department of Education must go through the procurement process again, the same one that we did last year that awarded the contract to the College Board for a college admissions exam. And you can see here on that last line of the statute, which is here on the slide for you, that it is for implementation during the 26-27 school year. So Stacy, if you go to the next slide. So we understand that that this does impact our schools, our educators, our students, our families in preparation for the 2026-27 school year. So because of the statutory language, and it is now law, KDE must go through another procurement. Now, procurement is also the process in statutory language. There's what's called a model procurement code. It's 45A, Model Procurement Code 45A, that governs and regulates the procurement of any state contract. I mean, any. So we go through this process following 45A when we purchase anything in the state, not just the Kentucky Department of Education. So we'll do that again. We have released a request for proposal publicly. That was done on May 21st. That RFP went public, and so we have that process in place. And now I'll also note for you that the Finance and Administration Cabinet facilitates this competitive bid for us. So we will utilize the process. We'll follow all the laws and the guidelines in statute as we did last time. There was not anything that was wrong with the procurement process. That was the desire of the General Assembly to us to go through it again. So we will do that, and we will have then a college admissions exam hopefully in place for the spring of 2027. We do understand again that this puts our schools and districts and students in a little uncertain place, as it does for the Kentucky Department of Education. The process generally takes 18 months to get a contract in place, but the Finance Administration Cabinet has said that they will prioritize this contract because they do know the impact on our students across the Commonwealth, and has said that we will prioritize that, and so will the department. So the absolute earliest that we could have a contract is October in place. And that's the Finance Administration Cabinet has said if everything goes perfectly, everything goes right. So, and all the deadlines are met, and we are committed to doing that. So the department will have a unbiased, a fair, following all statutory language in 45A procurement process. I think that was the last slide for that one. And so let me pause and see if anybody has questions about Senate Bill 197, Section 15.
I have a question. This is Jamaica Howard. I'm just, I want to clarify. So this statute only pertains to assessments purchased by general funds. Families can still pay for their child to take whatever assessment they want?
Absolutely, yes. And Stacy, if you would go back to a couple of slides there, the one that shows the veto language, that one. So the governor did veto the limit on the use of general funds. So that's off of there, but families can go on a national test day as they have any time and purchase on a national test date, either one of those that they desire. That meets their needs for their child.
I know. And so this just pertains to what we can do at school. So high schools will have to wait for the model procurement process or for the RFP process to be able to, got it.
Yes.
Thank you.
You got it. Thank you, Ms. Howard.
Are there any high school principals that would like to have any input?
Okay. Well, thank you again for allowing us to be here. House Bill 257 is a result of a lot of work and a lot of efforts along the way through a collaborative process. House Bill 257 was a result of 4 years of really working across the Commonwealth on a reimagined assessment system and accountability system. And so we're thrilled to be here at this pivotal moment and excited to have the conversation with you. There has been a variety of collaborations, both on the efforts of KDE staff. Multiple offices were involved. We had statewide partners and we had national experts that have really come together for the development of new systems, both assessment and accountability. And so we had great discussions. We've had surveys, we've had small groups, we've had town halls. We've had multiple discussions with the Kentucky Board of Education, as well as our advisory groups. I know that we've been here talking about the Kentucky United We Learn initiative before with our principals. And so this is a result of all of that effort. Now, I'll note for you, we didn't get everything that we wanted in House Bill 257, but it is a significant step forward in our reimagined education system. So I'm going to turn it over to Shara at this point, who's going to talk us through a little bit of the timeline and some of the components of the bill itself.
We did have one question in the chat.
Oh, okay.
From the previous topic. Do you
Sure.
want to address that now or go on?
Absolutely. Let's
Okay,
do that.
yes, it was from Ginger Estes. Will either college exam be used for transition readiness?
Absolutely. The SAT and ACT have both been utilized for the transition readiness in our accountability system and will continue to be used. Yes. Okay.
That was
Stacy,
it.
thanks
Thank
for
you.
yes, thanks for letting me know. I hadn't seen that. So I'll turn it over to Shara.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you for the invitation to be here with you today. As Jennifer said, the bill, House Bill 257, we didn't quite make the moonshot, but it was the right step forward. And so that was passed and was signed by the governor. Next slide, please. So House Bill 257 provides an opportunity for districts to adopt locally developed indicators of quality. So at a high level, what this means for districts is these measures that districts create or adopt must align with Kentucky's academic standards, but it allows students to demonstrate their learning in a more real world way. This could include student well-being, student safety, or other local priorities that matter to the community. This bill defines what vibrant learning means in Kentucky, which is about student-centered experiences in which students apply their learning through projects with partnerships with their families and the community, business leaders, and experiences that are connected to the students' interest and their future careers and aspirations. Districts are not required to implement a local system that includes these indicators, but they may choose to do so. And so if a district does want to implement this system, there are some important requirements. So they must include disaggregated data, student data, and make those results public and available online. Now, KDE is here to support. Different offices will be providing technical assistance, and we may offer a one-time payment of up to $15,000 to help districts get started. Next slide, please. So another part of the bill that I wanted to bring to you today is this section of the bill focuses on additional measures that reflect both the educator quality and the student readiness at key transition points, but I want to point out the fact that these are just measures that will be on the school report card. They are not a part of the accountability system at this point. So the first measure is the percentage of certified teachers who have advanced their credentials. So those teachers who have gained their rank 2 or their board certification. It also includes at the middle school level the percentage of students earning a high school credit by the end of grade 8. And then at the high school level, it focuses on the students completing the FAFSA, recognizing both the students who complete that FAFSA, and then there'll be an option for families to formally opt out of that. So that is the additional measures I wanted to talk to you about today. So next slide. So for this year, the 25-26 school year that you all just closed out, nothing changed as far as KSA and AKSA. Testing remained the same. No changes were made to the grade levels. As I'm sure a lot of you probably have seen, the content areas in the assessment and administration all remain the same. The data reporting, the important piece now for you to know is the data reporting remains unchanged. State accountability calculations continue to use status and change to determine the school color rating, while federal calculations will continue to use the 3-year average to determine CSI, TSI, and ATSI classifications. So overall, districts move forward with confidence, knowing that there's no immediate changes that they have to learn or to get under their belt before fall reporting time. So next slide, please. Moving ahead to the 26-27 assessment and accountability, we do start to see some changes. KSA testing will continue across the same grade levels. There are some key components being removed from the state testing program. This includes editing and mechanics, on-demand writing, and the quality of school climate and safety survey. Now that survey will still be available to be used in the local piece for districts, but it will no longer be part of the state assessment program. For the AKSA, the alternate Kentucky summative assessment, we'll also see that same approach with writing and the survey being removed. Writing does continue to be emphasized, but it's being moved back to the local level. So each superintendent must adopt and publish a writing program that includes writing across the curriculum. KDE must provide schools and districts with guidelines and professional learning development opportunities to support writing across the curriculum. Now, in addition to the assessment changes for the 26-27 school year, there are important updates on the accountability side. So with 26-27, chronic absenteeism will be introduced as a new indicator, and growth will be a new indicator, and change will be removed. So this will be a shift in how we define and measure success here in Kentucky. But one piece I want to point out to you, Jennifer talked to you about the college admissions exam and the RFP process there. The contract for the KSA and AKSA will also be out for bid, and we'll go through that RFP process as well. And so this could affect what future administrations look like in 2028 and beyond. Next slide, please. So what is important to remember that Kentucky's accountability system is shaped in both the state and the federal. Under the federal requirements, states must measure academic achievement in reading and mathematics, growth or another academic indicator, progress in English language proficiency, graduation rate, and at least one school quality and student success indicator. You may hear us refer to that as the SQSS. Next slide, please. So with that in mind, beginning the 26-27 school year, Kentucky's accountability system will include a revised set of state indicators. So these indicators will focus on student performance in reading, mathematics, science, and social studies achievement, individual student growth, English learner progress, chronic absenteeism, and post-secondary readiness, along with the graduation rate. And so I'm going to stop there and turn it back over to Jennifer, who's going to talk to you more in depth about the individual student growth.
Thank you, Shara. So individual student growth is a piece of accountability that we have had some history with. And Stacey, if you'll go to the next slide, please. So including growth as a measure in accountability is useful. It helps to more fully reflect the schools and what they contribute to the students' learning. That goes beyond just a single proficiency measure. Student growth, it focuses on student learning, and it reflects the learning that has gone on in the school and the classroom. It focuses on the students' growth or progress from one year to the next. So think about tracking students and their particular assessment results from one spring assessment, summative assessment to the next, and how they are doing individual. So it's an individual measure. Whereas right now we have change, and change is a little different from individual student growth. Whereas the focus on growth allows systems to better recognize the progress that students are making, especially for those students that begin below proficiency. It helps to acknowledge that there are gains, even if the students have not met that proficiency benchmark. And it provides a more complete picture and fair picture for the school performance by capturing that same progress of the students over time, rather than just comparing different groups across years. If you'll go to the next slide. So there's really no single right measure for individual student growth. It really is what the state values, and aligning their accountability with the broader vision of supporting continuous improvement for student progress, and using that data to drive school improvement and district plans. At the same time, it's important to recognize that how growth is measured matters, and that different approaches of growth yield different types of results. So there's decisions to be made. There's technical decisions to be made. There's policy decisions to be made. But what's important is the decisions to be informed. And that's what we want to have a discussion with you today. So if you go to the next slide. So as I've mentioned, there's different pieces of how you can look at the way schools are impacting student progress. So the change measure that we have right now are year-to-year performances and the differences. For example, if you take fourth grade math and you take the students in 2024 and what they scored on math, and then the performance of the next year, 2025, and their their performance in math. Now, that's changed. It's not the same students because you have fourth graders in 2024, you have fourth graders in 2025. Those are not the same students. So that's a difference. The year-to-year differences are comparing different students, whereas individual student growth follows the same student from year to year. So it's how the student in their fourth grade, that they were in fourth grade and took the math test, compared to how they performed in fifth grade. So it's that individual student that we're following. So this is one piece of House Bill 257 that received the most support as we were gathering feedback across the development of that Kentucky United We Learn initiative. If you'll go to the next slide. So we want to ask you, what is your thoughts about individual student growth? One particular discussion that has arisen is the possibility of growth at high school. So when we're talking about individual student growth, as Shara mentioned, there is testing at every grade 3 through 8 for reading and math, and grade 10 in high school. So if you looking at growth, it's an elementary and middle school measure that we would start in grade 3, and they would the students would take their reading test, and they'll take their math test in grade 3, and then they'll be compared to how they perform in grade 4, and so forth along the way. Now, it is technically feasible to have high school growth, but it's a measure of whether the state would like to have high school growth as a measure in their accountability system. So we can look at 8th grade reading compared to the 10th grade reading. We can look at 8th grade math compared to the 10th grade math. It's called skip year growth, and that has arisen as a possibility. So we'd really like your thoughts about individual student growth, what you would like to see the potential uses of it, and then our high school growth, if you think that it is supported or should be supported or not. So your thoughts?
This is Josh Henderson. I'm a high school principal, and I do believe that I do like the idea of measuring that growth, especially if it's from 8th to 10th grade, because, you alluded to, we're not comparing apples to oranges, it's apples to apples. I don't think that's a bad measurement for us. However, I know on our end, as a high school principal, I've been very proactive to try to implement things such as screening for student universal screeners as well, to also measure that growth as the year goes on. So based on my understanding, we're not really using a universal screener to measure that growth. We're using that spring test from a high school perspective to see, like basically what you said. When you're in 8th grade and you take that reading exam, you would take that reading exam again as 10th graders, and that would be the growth indicator that you would get for your accountability.
That's correct, Josh. I appreciate the comments because the federal law that Shara mentioned is ESSA, the Every Student Succeeds Act, and it requires that the assessments to be used for individual student growth to be peer reviewed. So our state assessments are peer reviewed. They go through the rigorous accreditation type of review. And so those are the assessments that can be used. Now, there has been some desire to use your formative assessments that are given locally, and those are not peer reviewed. So the state does not come into your schools and say, give me your MAP test, give me your iReady test. We've got to get these all of these different measures peer reviewed. The state assessment, the summative assessment, is peer reviewed, and that's the one that can be used for individual student growth. So that's the measure that we're looking at using here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Howard.
Yes, I wanted to talk about the first two questions. I'm not a high school person, but I'm really excited about the potential uses of individual student growth data. One thing specifically, the year I started being the principal at my school, it was 2020, and my kindergartners had to learn their letters on the computer. And so it has been, those students actually just left 5th grade. And so being able to monitor those gaps that were created by the pandemic, and being able to just, again, it's hard to use a summative assessment for formative use, right? Because you only do it once a year, but it will give schools information on adjustments we need to make instructionally. For example, again, at our school, we've been tracking the children who, not the ones that were kinder in 2020, not the ones in 2021, but the ones in 2022, where we were like back in school, everyone knew how to behave, and we weren't checking tips. And those students just finished the 3rd grade, they're going to the 4th grade. So those students just took the KSA for the first time. And so it'll be really interesting to see. And also, I believe it'll give us information on how quickly we're able to close the gaps that were created during the pandemic at multiple levels. Elementary, middle, high, etc.
Great, thank you for that. I hear you saying that the information that you want to be able to receive back information that gives you information that you can have conversation with, you can see the progress in closing those gaps where they existed with the impact of the pandemic.
Yes, and being able to compare that student in 3rd grade to themselves in 5th grade is super valuable, and it allows us to, again, give some information on to their next set of schools, but it shows how our comprehensive program is addressing instructional gaps kind of across the board. Because so you're not looking at 3rd graders, we're not looking at last year's 3rd graders next to this year's 3rd graders. We're looking at this year's 3rd graders against next year's 4th graders, and able to celebrate those gains. Because again, if a student is 2 or 3 years behind and they're novice, looking at those, looking and saying, oh my gosh, they're 2 points away from being apprentice, that could be one question, and it just gives you really, it also too, I missed this the first time around, but it gives students something to celebrate. They're making progress as well. And part of them tracking their own progress is, part of that vibrant learning. So I think it's going to be really helpful to all stakeholders involved.
Thank you.
Mr. Guerrero.
Yes, can you all hear me okay? My microphone finally working.
It's a little low, but I can hear you.
Well,
let me turn up my volume.
All right, I'll do my best. First of all, thank you very much for this change. Many of us have been talking about this for a long time, so I'm very thankful to see that the growth will be, student growth throughout the years. And my only I have a couple questions. but the one about growth is, will there ever be a possibility of being able to measure like individual student growth within the year? And I believe that was a question asked earlier by possibly Mr. Howard. Is that something that's possibly coming up with the new, when the bids go out in 2028, that we might be able to see if that's an option, just to see that growth within the year and see if we can get some measurement on that? Or because, you know, with the way the standards change every year, I'm not saying the gaps grow, because they don't, you know, we work towards that, but the standards do change every year. And it is hard to, you're still comparing slightly, you know, maybe a different type of apple from a different apple from every year. But I still thank you so much for that change, because I do feel like that student growth is better than the apples and oranges we were comparing in the past. So I love that. And I do want to go back to Senate Bill 197. I have a question from, I come from the high school world before I got into elementary. I have a question that I know my friend's going to ask. If for whatever reason the juniors are not allowed to take the test this coming spring next year, will there be an option for them to take it as maybe seniors in the fall? Will the state, if it can get it, if you all can get things done by then? I think
So
that had
our,
happened years ago, possibly, but maybe you're.
so it's our goal that all the juniors have a smooth administration of a
Yes.
statewide assessment program in the spring of 27. So that's our goal for testing. So that they can be prepared going into their senior year. Having an assessment, taking an assessment the spring of their senior year is frankly too late.
Right.
Because of the applications, the scholarships, things of that nature that our students are facing during their senior year. So
Is there, I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead. I'll let you finish, and then I have just a question as far as possibly maybe a reimbursement process if the districts pay for it themselves. Like, let's say they pay to have the students that want to do it on the weekend, and then maybe a reimbursement process if you all are not allowed to or able to get it taken care of that on that time frame. So
yeah, all great questions. Again, it's our goal to have a contract in place. So
Okay.
we're anticipating trying to break down those logistical barriers to get it in place. So I feel quite confident that we can get a contract in place for that time frame. Now, what happens after that in terms of any type of protest or things of that nature that we could face, you know, that's we'll cross that when we're there. As far as your question about growth and being within the year growth, now I'll remind you that in our prototypes and the frameworks that we have discussed multiple times here is that we ask for interim assessments to be a part of the statewide system. I know that I've been here talking about a cohesive system that is connected, and that the interim assessments would align to the summative assessments and things of that nature. That did not get into the bill. So House Bill 257, that was a key component that we had frankly hoped that we could have, but it did not make it into. And so unfortunately, we don't have that in through year assessment. So we have the summative assessment. And so as a requirement on ESSA, any of the assessments used for growth must be peer reviewed, and our summative assessment is the peer review that the state has. So the growth will be from 1 year spring summative assessment to the next year's spring summative assessment.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you answering my questions.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Ginger Estes, and I'm high school principal. And so I was looking back at the slides, and earlier when we talked about the locally developed indicator, is it possible to use MAP the NWEA map for the growth, the yearly growth, even after 10th grade, to show individual goal setting and that kind of growth for, you know, not transition readiness, but not necessarily, but mostly for students to have some kind of incentive, self-incentive, intrinsic growth.
Yes, those locally developed measures for your local accountability system are the desire and the priorities given at the local level once the district has conversations and development in gathering feedback from their community. So if the community is interested in those locally used measures and seeing those in a local accountability, absolutely, those can be utilized. I think I see one more hand up.
Hey, Jeremy
Yes,
Kidd. I'm
Mr.
also
Kidd.
at the high school level, and I was curious to, could you give me more information about the technical calculation components if you were using a summative 8th grade reading or math to a skip year and a 10th grade reading or math assessment? So I guess, would it be like a scale score, or would it be like you scored novice in 1 year, now you've grown to apprentice? Can you speak to a little bit more on that part, about how you calculate that?
Sure. Thank you for the question. It's a great question. We have been working on a couple of different models. We have an accountability thought partner group that is working, have met already twice, that has gotten deep into those details on how to measure growth. That group has not come to a final decision, but I will say that two models have kind of bubbled to the top. One being a student growth percentile, and the other one a value table. So the student growth percentile is a measure that compares students and their growth to other students. So you think about, as for example, when when a child goes to the doctor and they're 1 year old, and they say, oh, your child's weight is in the 90th percentile, then that means that child is their weight is above 90% and below 10% of the population. So a student growth percentile is being discussed. Kentucky has had some history with student growth percentiles before 2019. And we changed that after 2019 to a categorical model, which would be more along the lines of looking at a value table and where the student is in relation to moving along the different categories of novice, apprentice, proficient, and distinguished. So, for example, if a student was maybe novice low and moved to novice high, and the student demonstrates growth, and the school would then get credit for that growth. Those two types of models, both a student growth percentile and a value table, are currently being discussed. And I'd love your feedback if you would like to weigh in on either of those.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to Sharon now with chronic absenteeism.
Thank you, Jennifer. Next slide, please. So in the 24-25 school year, Kentucky's chronic absenteeism rate was at about 25%, according to the Kentucky School Report Card. This is not unique to Kentucky. Having this indicator as part of our accountability system, as more than 30 states already include a chronic absenteeism indicator within their accountability system. Now, the weights are relatively low for this particular indicator, ranging from anywhere from 5 to 10%. So under ESSA, as Jennifer mentioned, our federal law, chronic absenteeism may fit in that school quality student success bucket that we talked about earlier. It is also important to note that chronic absenteeism includes both excused and unexcused absences when determining a student's status. So next slide, please. House Bill 257 defines chronic absentee chronic absentee indicator as student engagement as measured by chronic absenteeism, which shall be defined as a student missing 10% or more of a yearly school time for excused or unexcused reasons throughout the school year. Now, we have had discussions of with different councils and different groups about using the federal definition of chronic absenteeism, and that definition is missing 10% of school days or approximately 18 days in a school year for any reason, excused or unexcused. Now, the differences here is calculation. And how this is measured. The federal definition is based on school days missed, while the state is currently using the measures of minutes of instructional time missed. ESSA states that it must be measured. So in order to use the federal definition in the federal calculation, ESSA states that it must be measured for the half year. Kentucky defines a half year as 100 days. Therefore, this indicator can be measured at 50 days of enrolled to ensure accountability without having to track back to another district. So an example of that, what that would look like, a student chronically absent for 50 days in, say, Carter County, chronically absent student that is enrolled in 50 days in Boyd County, but found its place of belonging in Bath County and was enrolled there for 100+ days. With that, the 50-day rule and using the federal calculation and definition, the student is accountable in Carter County. So what went on, how the student was in Carter County, Carter County would be accountable, Boyd County would be accountable for that 50 days, and then Bath County would be accountable for the 100-day. Without track, Bath County would not get a track back from for what happened in Carter and Boyd. So again, we've met with several different groups with chronic absenteeism and had that discussion, and we've gathered feedback on their thoughts. And so we wanted to have a discussion with you here today. But before we start taking questions, Jennifer may have some things she wants to add to that. So at this point, I'll ask her if she has anything to add before we take some good feedback from you and or your questions.
Thank you, Shara. The only thing that I would add is the fact that we're looking at chronic absenteeism and using either a half a day for recording. So for example, the state right now uses minutes, and the federal calculation uses a half day. So what we can do is use the half day that would capture some of that quick appointments that the students may have. We realize that there are students that have monthly dermatologist appointments, they have monthly physical therapy appointments and things of that nature. So we want to give as much credit as credit can be given. And so looking at half day versus whole day calculations. And also utilizing this indicator that is using not the 100-day accountability. So looking at a half a year accountability instead of having the track back for our students that we would get on a full year accountability measure.
Any thoughts or questions?
We do have one question in the chat about how does that look for students that have a chronic illness form?
And that's what we were, Jennifer was alluding to, those appointments, whether it be for a chronic illness or orthodontist, when they have to leave for just a couple of hours to go to those appointments, where the state is now for chronic absenteeism is capturing the minutes. This would take a look at half days so that that would not count against those students.
Did that help, Ms. Gerhart?
Yes, thank you.
And we have two people with, I think hands up. Ms. St. Bernard?
Yes, thank you. I do have just a couple of questions, or I guess I just wanted to provide some feedback about the weight, because I do think that including absenteeism into the accountability system as an indicator might impact different districts unfairly, especially if you have populations of, high poverty. And there are just also a lot of factors for early education and earlier grade levels that are really not the students' faults. Like there are family circumstances and different things to consider. So I just wanted to provide that input.
Thank you very much for your feedback. See, let's one more hand raised.
As a point of privilege, I'm going to ask us to just capture the remainder of our commentary on this topic. I know we are going to have a lot of opinions on it, and this is one that will probably spark a lot of conversation across the state. But we are on slide 31 of 93. And we have quite a bit of business to cover. So I'm going to hold if we can. I hate to do this, but I don't want to unfairly not get to any of the other information that we need to make sure that all of our principals are aware of to make sure we get this information out across the state. So after this meeting, Ms. Stacy and I will get a note catcher of some sort out to you all to gather this feedback, and we will make sure that we share that out. Okay, we did have a little bit of a discussion before the meeting to say that, Mr. Ross, you may have to do this. So to give fairness to everyone, I do want to do that, and I want to respect your time. I know you've got things to do, even though we are in summer.
Exactly. Okay, so real quick, the next two slides for us, and so the next slide. So I'll turn it over to next slide. Let's turn it over to Jennifer.
So, do we want to transition now to the weights, or does anyone have any additional comments around chronic absenteeism?
I was just going to throw two things out there for consideration. One are schools that have MSD and FMD students. So when I think of chronic illnesses, my mind goes to a lot of those students who catch a lot of bugs and things that are going around and miss entire days. And also for very diverse districts like mine, my school is majority not Christian. And so I have a lot of Muslim and Hindu students that miss for religious holidays, and those are counted as excused absences as well. So just some special consideration for that, because I don't want them missing. I don't want them to be counted, I want them to go and celebrate their religion and not be penalized.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we do understand that this definition of chronic absenteeism does take into account both excused and unexcused absences.
Thank you all so much for sharing this accountability update. We definitely it is all the way in our wheelhouse, and I know we have so many opinions. And when we get off here, I know what's going to happen. You're going to think of all these questions that you should have had or asked while we had the platform. We want to be able to capture that. I also want to make sure that we are getting all of these comments to the right stakeholders as they're making these decisions. It's very important that people understand we're in the trenches and are dealing with many of these. One that I have is about excused absences, being able to capture why those excuses were made, I think becomes very important before we just have kind of a one size fits all. So thank you so much. We'll definitely be able to capture the principal's comments and get those to you all directly.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the time here on your agenda.
All right, we have some more legislative updates. Mr. Perry, are you available?
I am.
All right, we'll turn it over to you.
Thanks. You can go to the next slide. And one more. There you go. So we'll try to go through this fairly fast. Just to give you all some context, there were probably 12 or 1,300 bills that were filed during this past legislative session. It was a 60-day budget session, so we always see a lot more bills drop. Of those, we probably tied close to 300 out of the gate as impacting education one way or the other. And so I think people kind of underestimate just how much legislation is flying around during these sessions. So I always try to make sure people understand kind of what we're tracking. With that said, just a couple of things for you. I do this a lot, by the way. This, I don't know, my 10th one of these updates. So please feel free to raise your hand if you ever have any questions or need me to slow down. So we'll just hit some highlights. So one of the priorities for the board heading into the session was something that Dr. Brewer and her team had brought up the session before, and that was to replace KEPS. So KEPS is pretty woefully outdated. It doesn't really provide us with the real-time vacancy data that the General Assembly really would like to see. It's just not real helpful. So we had proposed a very minor statutory change that would let us use the existing certification fees to pay for an off-the-shelf statewide job portal, and then to maintain it with those same certification fees. So no budget request with this item. We did get across the finish line as part of a omnibus bill, which was House Bill 727. So we are, I think, looking at a February rollout for this new statewide job portal. I think that for you all, that's probably going to be hopefully very helpful. We are expecting it to allow applicants to put in one application and send those to multiple schools, multiple districts. On your all side, I think it should allow you all to go in and see who's looking for what, and just hopefully better kind of match with the workforce. So if you need a middle school math teacher, you hopefully will be able to go in and see who's looking in your area, or who might just be looking for a middle school math position in the Commonwealth. Even if they haven't tagged your region, might be able to reach out to them and say, hey, would you be interested in coming to this side of the town, Commonwealth? So anyway, it's a big change. It was part of a relatively large omnibus bill, so I'm just trying to point that out to everybody. The rest of, I think what was in that omnibus bill probably isn't of super high level concern to you all, so we'll move along. I think that Ms. Noah indicated that one of the questions from you all was about cleanup to Senate Bill 181 from last session. That was the traceable student communication bill. Kind of was quiet during the session, and as it went into effect, we got a lot of feedback from the districts about that one. Happy to say, I think all of the concerns that we heard about were addressed. That was included in House Bill 67 of this session. We have already posted updated guidance for that traceable communication system. That link is at the end of this presentation. But if you just Google KDE legislative guidance, it should be the first thing that pops up. So that's already posted. So please take a look at that and see if you have any additional questions or you still have some concerns. Please do let us know. I think that 67 covered everything we'd heard about and then some. So the sponsor of Senate Bill 181 from last session did file her own cleanup bill, somewhat confusingly, also Senate Bill 181 of this year. The House, however, went with their version, which was 67. It went just a little further. It covered a few more scenarios, like work-based learning, some things like that. So hopefully it covers everything, but as you all read through it, if you still have questions or concerns, please let us know. We will certainly be happy to convey those to both the original sponsor and the sponsor of House Bill 67, who, by the way, is an active educator down in Henderson and is an assistant principal at one of the CTE schools there. All right, so let's move along, try to keep this going. House Bill 500 was the budget bill. Just a couple of quick notes. We did see a modest uptick in SEEK funding in each year of the biennium, which you'll see there. Unfortunately, we were not able to see SEEK transportation get fully funded. As the commissioner will tell you, we were sharing that estimated need number the day that it became available to key members in both chambers, but didn't see it get across the finish line. We will continue to advocate for that to be fully funded as they look ahead to the next biennium. So something that kind of flew under the radar, but I think might be important for this group to know about. So historically, the academic academies at the universities have those students that attend those count toward your district's ADA, right? Your seat calculation. Going forward, that will not be the case. In part because I think the General Assembly felt like it was a bit of a double dip because they provide a line item allocation for the universities to fund those programs. And so that it's a bit kind of a quiet change. There wasn't a lot of conversation about it. I will say that Ward-Truba up at Northern Kentucky did testify last week. And it's that we may see some changes with them. They're not a residential program like Craft and Gatton. And they apparently also have some agreements with the districts that send students to that program that the seat dollars follow the student. Excuse me. So we may see a change there, but just wanted to make sure that you all were aware. I know that some districts have traditionally provided books and some other supplies for students that attend Grattan and Craft. And so it'll be a change. We'll see if they can reconsider it as we head into the next biennium. So under the KDE section of the budget, part of one section is called the LARS items. This is the programmatic funding. And I'm just highlighting it because I think there's going to be some conversations over the next couple of sessions as we get into the next budget cycle. The Senate in particular was interested in rethinking how they are funding these line items. So it's kind of a mixture of programmatic things that are housed here at the department and provided out to districts, as well as some third-party vendors that provide services to districts. I think that the initial thought was that they might go to a sort of a block grant model and send those dollars down to districts and allow districts to sort of pick where they want to utilize those funds. That could work for some items, but some of the items that are funded at the department, that doesn't really work for. So we'll continue to talk about that. So anyway, just making sure people are aware. All right, well, in the interest of time, we'll just keep moving along here. I think that for this group, a couple of highlights from House Bill 900. This was the one-time spending bill. We've seen them do this a couple of sessions now, or a couple of budget sessions now. One big change is the additional $14 million in each year for the CTE supplemental funding. So we have been sort of tweaking the CTE funding formula for a couple of years now. And as part of that, we've always wanted to bring the ATCs into the supplemental funding. However, we wanted to make sure that local districts were held harmless. We estimated we need about $15 million to do that. We got 14, so I think districts will be held relatively harmless as we bring the ATCs into that supplemental funding formula. A fairly large change that we'll talk about in a little bit was Senate Bill 263. So if you remember back last session, I believe it was Senate Bill 207. That moved the innovation tag from the district level down to the school level. So individual schools can now be schools of innovation. This is sort of a follow-up to that. As part of that bill, they provided $7.5 million in funding over the biennium. So in year one, $2.5 million is earmarked for a project in Covington Independent. And then there's an additional $5 million for 2 additional projects in the second year of the biennium to be selected. And then there was a lot of school construction funding included in 900. There were some projects that are sort of halfway finished that did not get funded. So I suspect we will continue to hear about those projects and hopefully see some of those get funded either next session or the next biennium. Next slide, please. I don't think there's anything here that we haven't already covered. So you can, yeah, you can go ahead. That's fine. No, go ahead. Quite all right. So again, quite a few Senate bills to run through. I will try to just kind of touch on the ones that I think are of interest to you all. I believe Ms. Noah said that there were some questions about Senate Bill 2. That bill is not really a surprise. It's one we heard them talk about during the interim last year a little bit. The idea is limiting superintendent and administrator pay raises to that of the classroom teachers in the district. There are some caveats. We just pushed out our legislative guidance on all the legislation that passed this session yesterday. That's posted to the same link that's at the end of this presentation. So I'll just kind of leave it at that. Please review that document. If you still have questions regarding Senate Bill 2 or any of the other bills that passed, do let us know. We are certainly open to doing supplemental guidance or an FAQ on bills as needed if we get enough questions from the field. Senate Bill 4, I think, is probably the one of most interest to this group. Oh, go back real quick. So I'm in my 5th year here at the department, and since I've been here, there's been a lot of talk about both KPIP and KTIP, and sort of reviving or bringing back some version of those mentoring programs. Senate Bill 4 is probably the first real effort we've seen to do this. So this is the principal training and mentoring bill. It went through quite a few iterations, but it landed on a 4-year cohort model for first-time principals. I keep saying new principals, but it's a bit of a misnomer because if you just move schools, that person would not be part of the cohort. But if you're going from an assistant principal up to a full principal, that person would be included in the cohort. The cohort will do the first 2 years with KDE. The 3rd year is with the Kentucky Chamber Foundation and Truist. And the 4th is an optional year with a menu of options. So we had estimated we needed about $2.5 million a year to do the first 2 years of KDE's portion. However, the funding included was $1 million in each year. So Dr. Foster and her team are sort of rethinking what those first 2 years with KDE will look like. I will say that because the cohort would start in the fall, you really don't need funding for those 3rd and 4th years until the next biennium budget, because it would that 3rd year summer would be after the next budget passes and goes into effect. So there's still, I think, an option here for them to fund years 3 and 4 and perhaps a little additional funding for the first 2 years as they do the next biennial budget. So that's Senate Bill 4. That's where we landed. Again, legislative guidance just came out yesterday. I fully suspect that Dr. Foster and her team will have more information forthcoming on Senate Bill 4. But please do kind of look at the guidance and see where it stands right now. Let's see, just trying to, 46, I believe there were some questions on 46 as well. That's the 10-passenger non-school bus vehicle bill and regulation that we've been working on for quite some time. I meant to put in a slide on this one and I completely forgot, but I will post some bullet points regarding the questions that Ms. Noah sent me on that one in the chat here in just a second. Let's see. Senate Bill 101 is a student discipline bill. So if you've not taken a look at that one, please do look at the guidance on that one. Given your all's roles, I think that's going to be probably one of the more important ones for you all to look at. And then I think with Senate Bill 170 there, I believe that one is one you all should probably take a look at as well. It's relating to truancy. So let's go on to the House bills. We've got a lot of slides to get through. With House Bill 1, going into the session, I told the commissioner I thought this would be Senate Bill 1, right number, wrong chamber. This is the federal tax credit. It opts the Commonwealth into the federal tax credit. I think at this point we are waiting on some additional action at the federal level, and then we will be able to kind of take the next steps as a state. I think the next steps are going to be kind of determining who qualifies as a scholarship granting organization and how those are selected. House Bill 4 was not just aimed at educators, but it does include educators as part of an anti-grooming bill. This is one that EPSB was fully in support of, and I think it landed in a good spot. 253, this one probably has two things of interest for this group. First is a prohibition on 3Qing. That's one that Chair Tipton has been pushing for the last few sessions and finally got across the finish line. It also rolled his, I think it was House Bill 102 into this bill, and that was his misconduct bill. Again, this has been a multi-year effort by him to get a misconduct bill across the finish line. I think, again, EPSB is fully supportive of the version that passed. I think the big part here is that it prevents or prohibits non-disclosure agreements relating to misconduct. So again, given your all's roles, I would make sure you take a look at the guidance on that one. And let us know if you have any questions. 307 is one that we worked on quite a bit. Unfortunately, that was one that didn't land exactly where we wanted it to, but we will have some more information coming out about that one. It's going to require a little work on districts. The idea here is to get your students more information on those post-secondary opportunities. And so it's a good intention, but I think it's going to create some work for us. So we'll work through that one. With 555, as you all look at that one, I think our guidance here is probably just make sure you're checking the federal regulations and staying in compliance. So just look at that one. 562, alternative high school diplomas. This was one we worked on quite a bit with the sponsor. He really wanted to make sure that this new diploma provided real value in the workplace for those students that are getting that degree. And so he worked with the chamber and some other stakeholders to really make sure that this was a diploma of value and something that those students can be proud of. So I think that's it. That's the super high level of what happened over the last 60-day session. We'll move on to the next. Got a couple more slides that I'll touch on real fast. 727 is the omnibus. It's turned out to be a relatively large bill. I think at the end of the day, 6 bills got rolled into this. So 621 has the class sizes for exceptional youth and children. That may be of interest to you, so please take a look at that. I think the only other thing here really is 685. That part was done in regulation here recently, but they wanted to codify it in statutes. So that's why it's included. I think that's probably all that's of interest to this group. 654, I'll just quickly mention that there was one version, the early version of that included some pretty significant changes to the CSIP and CDIPs, and that was taken out. Otherwise, I think most of that's just cleanup language that pertains to the department. So next slide. There's the link to the supplemental guidance or to the all the guidance that we have. It's pretty straightforward. Like I said, we have guidance for traceable student communications already posted. We have the main guidance document now posted as of yesterday afternoon. And I think that we will see some supplemental guidance and FAQs forthcoming over the summer as offices roll those out. So stay tuned. And then the next slide, I think I have one more. Oh, two more. So interim period started a couple weeks ago. It runs through November. IJCE education and appropriations and revenue are the two that I would probably pay attention to if you're interested in following along. With that said, I would go ahead and pencil in a December IJCE. We've seen one added the last few years. I think we'll likely see one again this year. And then finally, hopefully you all voted in the primary election and are participating in that process. Just a reminder that it is an election year. So all 100 state house seats will be up for election in the fall, and half of the state senate seats. That's it for me. That's the really quick version. Hopefully that was some help. Please reach out. Feel free to call, email, whatever, if you have any questions about any of the bills, or if you think we need additional guidance on anything that passed this session.
Thank you so much, Dr. Perry. I'm sure that folks will definitely follow up with questions. Please make sure that we're kind of looking through those documents. We'll move on to Parent and Family Connection Hub. Ms. Van Hook, are you available?
Yes, I am. I'm here.
Oh.
Thank you so much for having me today. And this has been a very interesting meeting with lots of great information and lots of really terrific conversation all around the accountability and chronic absenteeism. And I'm involved in lots of pieces of that work as well. So I do appreciate all of your input and all of the questions and that conversation. I know we're a little bit rushed in our agenda, so I'm going to hit the highlights. But one thing I want to say is congratulations on finishing up a school year. I know you all are very soon going to be preparing your back to school PD with your staff. And so if you want to bookmark this site, this is going to be a great piece for you to share with them. And I'm going to try to hit the highlights. So the Parent and Family Connection Hub came about as one of the recommendations from the Family Partnership Council. I know it's kind of slow. I'm ready for the next slide if you can. It's spinning on my end, but I'll try to power through what I do know. Let's see. I chair the Family Partnership Council there at KDE. And so just to give you a little bit of background, all of the members, and then I'm still stuck on the first slide for whoever's driving. Can you all see them? Or is it everybody?
Yeah. What does it look like, Mr. Ross?
It's just,
I can see Parent and Family Connection Hub now.
And Marcia, what do you see?
now it's advanced to the second slide. It's just really slow, I think. I think our connection is slow. We'll go ahead, but I was just speaking about the Family Partnership Council. So this council is made up of parents from across the state that serves in an advisory role to KDE. So these members set up their own agenda. I'm just giving you a little bit of background here. They set up their own agenda. They provide input around topics that they're interested in to help families and their communities help their students and have better outcomes. We meet quarterly. All of those meetings are available through the KDE Media portal. They're recorded. You can go back on the Family Partnership Council website, which is linked in this slide, and you can see all of our agendas, approved minutes, and any recordings. So in 2023, this council made 4 recommendations to KDE, and that's what I want to talk you through. One of those, and it's spinning again, but one of those recommendations was to create a one-stop shop for parents and families so they could very easily find information and resources and connections, all of those legislative updates and news. And thank you, Brian. That was great information. All of those things in a very easy way. We all know that the website's it's comprehensive. Sometimes you have to dig around. So we really wanted to make this easy for parents to find parent-facing resources. What I am pleased to say, we were able to have an access button straight from KDE's homepage, and the topics contained within this hub are divided into 4 sections. So you can see we have getting involved, how to help your student to succeed academically, and then support for diverse needs. And then the fourth section is wellness and whole child supports. So if we could go to the next slide. And I know I had planned on a little deeper dive, but I'm going to go pretty fast as well. Just to let you know where to locate this on KDE's main page, I've highlighted the button. It is easy for parents to find and as educators to find as well. So there's the button. And if you click that button, go ahead to the next slide. It's going to spin. It actually will take you to what that landing page looks like. And you have a picture of a parent reading a book, and it talks about the Parent and Family Connection Hub, just the history that I just shared, where it came from and how to find it. So we can go to the next slide. One thing I'll note, those 4 topics that I spoke about, you can access those from the left-hand margin, which you can see on this slide, but also there are buttons under this specific paragraph and picture so that you can navigate through that site as well. So I want to talk quickly about getting involved, and we can probably bypass that slide, Stacy, when we get there. Getting involved really shows parents how they can get involved through SBDM, how they can get involved through the Family Partnership Council, but it's information such as that. Again, we are always growing this site as well. It's been great to get feedback from groups such as yourself about what you see that's missing. The next button, thank you, is helping your child succeed academically. This is a very, very robust section, as you can imagine. We have added lots of information, and this one, if you can go on to the next one, this one contains a lot of information from preschool all the way up through post-graduation and post-secondary. There's a couple of resources here I want to highlight for this group in particular that in this work and across the state, I know that principals and teachers and district superintendents have found this piece very, very valuable. Some of you may know it's there, but there is actually a family resource guide to the standards. And when we're able to see it, it is still spinning on your side as well.
We can see wellness and whole child supports 2,
Okay.
family involvement.
Okay,
And
we
now
can
we're
go to
at
the
the
next.
toolkit.
Is your slide saying getting involved? I just spoke to this slide. If we could go to the next one.
Graduation and beyond, staying informed, early childhood, birth to age 5.
So in the maybe it's just my connection, and I do apologize. In the standards and family, let me pull up my PowerPoint I have over here. Stacy, just a second.
Yeah. And if you'd like to share on your end, that's fine too.
Let me pull it up. We're having some stormy weather here this morning, so that might be part of it, and I will apologize. Let's see. And I know we're pressed for time. If you'd like, I can share, if that makes it easier.
Yeah, you absolutely feel free.
Okay. It is still just kind of spinning on this end. All right. Can everyone see this?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. This may help us all. So from the staying informed side, I did talk about this, like how they can connect to Infinite Campus. I did not mention. And then we have the guides from early childhood, birth age to 5. This is an entire section. In the interest of time, I won't dig too deep in here, but I just want you to know it's there, especially if you have preschool. All of the things that are available on KET. We have graduation and beyond. There's the high school minimum requirement charts. We do find a lot of parents are asking for that information in chart form, so we have included that. A lot of you may be familiar with Futurity, which is it's from the Kentucky Council on Post-Secondary Education, but it actually has lots of things for middle school students to help them define an area of interest and kind of help craft moving forward for their careers. It also contains a site for adults. So if they're wanting to maybe go back to school or they want to get into a different career. So it's a very helpful site that we've contained. included. We've spoken quite a bit today about chronic absenteeism, so this is a link to all of the information at KDE and the chronic absenteeism campaigns. Support for diverse learners. You can see we have English learner. We have tons of information here under IDEA. What to expect in an ARC meeting, what are the family rights. It's extremely helpful knowledge for a parent to have if they are finding themselves at that level of support and they're unsure. Just the deeper dive piece, the wellness and whole child supports. There's lots of information here about family involvement. I am going to dig in here a little bit more for you. And then also you can see the full service community schools. This initiative has changed and it's a partnership schools now, so we'll need to update that. I'm catching that with you all. The family involvement, there is a parent and family toolkit. It is from the Kentucky Collaborative for Families and Schools. There is a digital playbook. If you're not familiar with it, there's lots of great information like how to make a family engagement plan for the year. There's 10 easy wins for each area in that playbook in creating communication loops with your families. What I want to share is about the toolbox. It has parent support organizations. It also shows how to grow your knowledge in all of these areas. So it's great not only for, I was referencing back when we were talking about the new principal, like understanding this, but also helping parents to understand all of these pieces. It's just a phenomenal resource built in. And I wanted to share, let me go back. I wanted to share one piece. There is a resource built in, and I apologize, I thought I had a whole slide dedicated for it. I know I do. There is a resource that actually, if you pull up for the family and parent guide, here we go. It's in the toolkit. You can pull out the entire, I'll just talk through it in the interest of time. You can pull out an entire resource for any specific grade, and it will give you the standards that you can expect your child to learn in reading or math. It will give you what to expect as a parent to see in their work. It has some conversational parts for teachers, like if in their work with parents, like things to ask and how to start those conversations. The big piece that a lot of folks have found extremely important is actually the part for the parent, like questions to take to your child's teacher for that conversation when you're having a teacher conference. And so those pieces have been extremely valuable, and it might be something as you sit in your role that you would want to share with your staff. And so if you're a third grade teacher, these are things that you could send home to the parent or link to them, and so that they see what the expectations are in the curriculum, also what to look for, but also how to have those meaningful conversations. So I just wanted to share that resource with you. I will kind of power through these last pieces. If you have anything that you see that you would like to see included in this webpage, as I said, we are always organically growing that based on your feedback. If you see something that is missing, one thing that we found was the graduation chart, and in working across the agency, that was something that parents were asking, and so that was added. So those are just examples of how we grow this. If you have any questions, or you get deeper in the summer and you go, hey, I remember we chatted briefly about this and you would like some information, here's my contact information. And I know you have a packed agenda, and I'll just see if there's any questions. Thank you all for bearing through that. If there's no
Thank
questions.
you so much, Ms.
you're
Van Hook.
welcome.
We definitely appreciate the resources for engaging families, and I'm sure they will become extremely useful in the days ahead, particularly in our summer planning. I believe, Ms. Stacy, you're going to start sharing again, maybe?
Well, I think Susan is going to take over. Is that
Okay.
correct, Susan?
Yes, I was making sure that that's what you wanted. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, indeed.
All right, thank you. So my name is Susan Strange and I'm the Strategic Plan Program Manager, and I want to share with you our strategic plan in our strategic dashboard today. So I know we're pressed for time, so I'm going to go through fairly quickly. But as I go through the dashboard, if you guys could think about how you might use this dashboard, what other information would you like to see in it? How do you feel about possibly a district spotlight? And if so, what would be of interest if we were to spotlight districts? And then what I want to start with is showing you how to get to the dashboard. So to get to the dashboard, you go to KDE's homepage. And then click on the Commissioner of Education tab and go to Strategic Planning and Research. So this is our Strategic Planning and Research page that has all of the information for our team on it. So you can see a blown out version of the strategic plan. You can go to the strategic dashboard, the customer survey and the employee survey that we give. Their dashboards are here. We have internal research, external research, and our new research blog. So I'm going to click on Strategic Dashboard, and that's going to take us to the Tableau public site where our dashboard lives. This is our dashboard. Across the top here, you're going to start on the overview page. So this gives you a quick snapshot of all of the goals. And then you can switch the view here to about this metric, and it goes into some more detail. Since we're pressed for time, I'm going to be pretty quick on how I go through this. I do want to point out at the top here, there's an email address, KDE Strategic Dashboard at education.ky.gov. If you could send your feedback or questions to that, myself and the Chief Performance Officer, Karen Dodd, gets these emails, so we would be able to answer those from you. Okay, the tabs at the top, accountability, chronic absenteeism, early literacy, early numeracy, and educator recruitment are our customer or stakeholder objectives. So I'm going to start with accountability. This is all about the new assessment and accountability system that Dr. Stafford talked about earlier on the call. Our goal here is to just get that system implemented. So this is kind of a timeline that we've done. We're at after the bill is passed, and now we're working on revising these regulations and moving on through that. Below that, you'll see the key performance indicators section. So this is all of the things that we think are helping push on that goal. And every page is laid out this exact same way, every objective page. So we've got the goal at the top and then the key performance indicators. For this one, we're specifically looking at local accountability, portrait of a learner, and vibrant learning. And then we have given some stages of development through that, non-engaged, starting, spreading, and sustaining, to be able to see where the districts are in each level of those. All right, I'm going to move on to chronic absenteeism. Here is the goal for chronic absenteeism. We want to decrease that from 28% to 15%. And then we also have a demographic filter where you can filter by gender, grade, locale, program, race, ethnicity, and socioeconomics. Below that is that key performance indicator section. On this one, we have a data card around the awareness campaign we did. You all might have seen the billboards, the YouTube commercials, the sides of the buses that were in Louisville and Lexington. So this is just the impressions and the amount of awareness that came out of that. And then on the right here, we've got our positive behavioral intervention system and resources. You can click on the KPI selector to go to a different one. So we also have decreasing the percentage of Kentucky schools with higher, extremely high rates of chronic absenteeism. And then we have, this is a repeat of the vibrant learning experiences development that was on the ANA, because we believe if we're providing those experiences, hopefully that makes kids want to be in school more. Moving on to early literacy, goal at the top to increase that elementary grade band proficiency rate on the KSA in reading from 42 to 55. We've got the demographic filter on this again. Then we've got our data card, which is our cumulative count of educators to date that are in the Kentucky Reading Academies. And then we've broken that down by how many districts have at least one letters trained teacher, and then what percentage of districts have at least 25% letter trained teachers. We have the elementary grade band novice rate that also has a filter, so decrease the elementary grade band novice rate on the KSA in reading. We want to increase the level of implementation of the MTSS framework around reading. And then we also have some information on our literacy coaching model data. Early numeracy is set up the exact same way that early literacy is, with the data card. And then we also look at the elementary grade band novice rate in the MTSS framework for mathematics. And then educator recruitment is our last customer stakeholder. We want to increase the completion rate of eligible students in the teaching and learning pathway from 6% to 14%. And then we've got a data card on that. This is about elevating the teaching profession. So we're looking in that Go Teach KY webpage, Facebook and Instagram views. We want to increase the enrollment, concentration, and completion rates within the teaching and learning pathway. So enrolled is any student that's taking the courses. Concentrators would be completing 2 courses, and completers would be completing 4 of the courses. We're looking at Ed Rising participation numbers and educator preparation program enrollment numbers as well. The 3 tabs on the bottom row here, customer satisfaction, process management, and leadership capacity. These are what we're calling our internal objectives and goals. So we want to increase customer satisfaction based on average favorable agreement for I know who to contact to get information, and KDE values feedback from 56% to 66%. And then we have some key performance indicators under that around the customer survey and a pulse check that goes out on the bottom of our emails twice a year. Process management, we're looking at for our goal to improve the average favorable agreement of the operations domain in the employee survey from 84% to 91%. And then our KPIs down here are the employee survey. We look at the biennial risk assessment and then another question on the employee survey. And then our last internal objective is leadership capacity. And we want to improve the average favorable agreement in that domain for the customer survey from 60% to 76%. And then we're looking at a question in the employee survey, and we want to increase the overall agreement rating of the employee satisfaction in the KDE leadership domain. The last thing I want to show you is that we have a resources page here. This is just a PDF with links, but it helps that we've gone in and looked at the goals and separated it that way. So if you wanted more information on chronic absenteeism, you go to goal 2 and you can click on that. We've got the Portrait of a Learner webpage, the local accountability design guide and toolkit for assessment and accountability. There's some resources for literacy and numeracy and educator recruitment on here as well. Okay, so going back to, oh, excuse me. Anyway, going back to our presentation here, does anybody have any feedback that they would like to give? I only have a couple of minutes, but I'm going to check and see here. Could you see yourself using this? What other information would draw you to the dashboard? And would you like to see district spotlight? And if so, what do you think would be of interest?
I would just say one observation that I had was in both the numeracy and literacy components of the strategic plan on the dashboard. The word early being there in the heading is going to unintentionally uninvite over half of your educators because they're going to think that it doesn't pertain to them. So I think just a small shift of just saying numeracy and literacy would be more fitting, that it's going to capture K-12. It's not just K-3 or pre-K to 3, but that's what's communicated with that. That's some of the conversation that we're having even right now at the conference, that it doesn't seem like this is really for me. I'm here, but the conversation may not be around. And then even with that, this being kind of the strategic plan of the entire department, we're wanting to make sure that we are all involved in that conversation.
Thank you for that feedback, and I will take that back to our literacy and numeracy teams. I will say that the reason that we've called it early literacy and early numeracy is because our goal is around that third through fifth grade band. And so most of the initiatives, most of the funds are towards that, the Kentucky Reading Academies, and all of that is for the early elementary. So that's why we named it early literacy and early numeracy. But I will absolutely take your comment back to our team and see what we can do about that. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have anything they would like to add? Thank you all so much for your time. And as I mentioned before, if you go through and please take time to peruse this and see if there's some more information you'd like to see. And feel free to, as I said, email that KDE strategic dashboard email, and both myself and the Chief Performance Officer, Karen Dodd, will receive that email and we'll get back to you on that. So again, thank you for your time.
Thank you. We'll move on to our next speaker. Or is it me?
It's
I think
Crystal
it's me.
Rutland.
Oh, okay.
Crystal, yes. Would you
Will
like
you
me
be
to
able
share
to-
slides, or do you want to, Crystal?
If you don't care to share, and then I can take over. While Stacey is getting this up, I just want to thank you all for time on the agenda today. I know that time is really packed. And so I do have my contact information at the end of my session, and do encourage you as I kind of go through updates around standards. If you want to jot down questions or recommendations that you might have for the Division of Program Standards, I would be glad to accept those as well. And you could reach out to me at any time. All right, so I wanted to give just a brief standards update of where we are with the standards review process. Stacey, if you can give me a thumbs up if you can see the standards update screen. Perfect. All right, so Kentucky state law established the development of our Kentucky academic standards, and it requires that every 6 years thereafter, our content area standards are reviewed and revised. And so we have a timeline available on the KDE website that's updated each year, usually in June, that reflects where we are with all of our content area standards. And so that's available if you go to the KDE website. You can put in the search bar in the corner, standards review timeline, and it will pop up for you there. In keeping with that schedule, the Kentucky Academic Standards for Reading and Writing were revised in 2025, and those were formally adopted into law May 5th of 2026, making them effective for classroom implementation in the 26-27 school year. Additional standards that are effective this fall include the CAS for health education, physical education, as well as career studies and financial literacy. So those all were revised and effective for this fall. Standards that are currently under review include social studies and mathematics in the Office of Teaching and Learning. And our Office of Educational Technology is reviewing the computer science, technology, and library media standards. And these standards are all set to be reviewed and approved by the Kentucky Board of Education at some point in the fall semester of this year. But we'll keep you posted on their progress as the year moves on. I wanted to elevate some resources that we have to support you as you transition to revised reading and writing standards. We've updated the reading and writing standards at a glance, and that is a great first stop to see what has changed in the revised standards. You'll see that the standards are more aligned with the training that teachers have received through letters. They're more aligned with your instructional resources and with evidence-based practices. And so it should be a smooth lift, but we also know that it's important to know what exactly has changed, and that is a great first start. The instructional resources consumer guide for reading and writing, as well as the standards family guides, have been updated so that they speak to the revision and standards as well. We also have some new resources to support implementation. So the CAS for Reading and Writing Implementation Guide is a roadmap designed with principals and district administrators in mind, and it's designed to support you in transitioning to revised standards without sort of stopping or halting the curriculum implementation work that we know is already happening within your district. And so all of the rollout resources are all hyperlinked within that resource, and it's available on kywstandards.org. There's also a companion glossary and support, as well as a digital cast for reading and writing that was created with instructional coaches and classroom teachers in mind. And so those are linked in that implementation guide as well and available on kywstandards.org. A couple of professional learning resources that we would elevate as you're transitioning in standards is the Getting to Know the CAS for Reading and Writing and the Interdisciplinary Literacy Practices in Action. These are both created as a school-based module, so they include the PowerPoint and facilitator guides. If you want to facilitate that learning within PLCs or within your school or district, those resources are there to support you. They're available on kywstandards.org. It's also available on the Kentucky Learning Hub as an asynchronous course. So you can go to the Kentucky Learning Hub and enroll in a self-paced course for either one of these professional learning opportunities and engage in that learning at your own pace and around your schedule. I would also like to lift up the March Leadership recording is available. So if you are not able to join us in March for one of these live in-person sessions, we did record it. And our reading and writing consultants, Lee Turner and Tina Whithorn, did a fantastic job of really walking through the shifts in the revised standards. And so you can access this recording on kywstandards.org. You can use the search bar up in the corner to search for March Leadership. It will take you directly to the recording as well as the resources, so you can hear from them what are the shifts in standards, and it really is designed with principals and district leaders in mind. One of the things we rolled out in March Leadership that I think would be of interest to principals as well is some support around technical assistance for HQIR implementation. So many of you know our Misty Higgins and Fox Demoisey, our professional learning coordinators who've done a lot of support around the state around curriculum implementation. We have a new implementation support request form where you can ask them to come alongside you as you implement and use the KDE tools and resources to improve implementation locally. I also want to lift up cohort 5 of letters for educators and letters for administrators. So this is the 5th cohort that we've been able to provide through the Kentucky Reading Academies. So this is free of charge for people to engage with, and it's designed for K-5 public school educators as well as school and district leaders in mind. And so if you have not had the chance, the Kentucky Reading Research Center released a report in March where they're looking at the impact of letters training on student proficiency. And there is a positive correlation for student proficiency in classrooms where teachers have been trained in letters, as well as novice reduction. And so I would recommend you take a look at that study and consider whether or not letters training is something you want to encourage your teachers to participate in. We also have a number of opportunities through the Kentucky Numeracy Counts Academies that are open for enrollment now. So I wanted to elevate those here. So through the Kentucky Center for Mathematics, there is a K-5 Teacher Academy. This will be the 2nd cohort. In partnership with that, PIMSR is offering leadership academies. So those 2 opportunities are created to speak to one another. So your teachers have an avenue for professional learning that is aligned with what leaders would engage with the leadership academies. There's also the EPIC Numeracy Alliance, which is a 2-year professional learning that's grounded in the patterns training through Carnegie Learning, but it also offers a mix of in-person, synchronous, live virtual, and asynchronous virtual learning as well. And again, I know I sped through those updates very quickly, but I do want to be respectful of your time. I'm glad to entertain questions, Stacy, if there is time for that, but also my contact information is here on the screen. We love to hear from you if you have questions, if you have recommendations of resources or professional learning that will better support you and your teachers. We would love to hear from you.
In short, principals, I'll say there are several changes, so definitely take some time to look through that information as in the days ahead, and particularly over the summer as you're doing your planning and your teachers are able to do some planning. There's some significant shifts one major one for the secondary leadership on the line is that conversation about content writing and making sure that everyone has a clear plan for that implementation moving forward. Thank you so much, Ms. Rowland, for your comments today, and do reach out to her if you have questions.
Thank you.
Our next item, we are actually going to table this item to our next meeting. I am going to ask everyone, please be thinking about our mission statement. It's on our agenda, and just kind of look that over. We know this advisory council is commissioned by the commissioner. It was created there as a sounding board for the Commissioner of Ed. But we want to make sure that our interests are aligning, and it's just good practice to review, come back to this place and say, you know, what are we doing? Is this really what we're going to continue to be about? Are there some particular things that we want to kind of refine, or maybe there are things that we have not that we didn't think about in the past that we now need to think about as our landscape has shifted or changed. So be thinking about that before, in preparation of our next meeting, any ideas that you might want to bring to the council for us to add as priorities. All right, I believe that brings us to the conclusion of our business for today. Are there any items that any PrAC members have that you would like to bring to the forefront before we entertain a motion to adjourn?
All the email letters.
Hearing and seeing none, I do want to give us just a little pause, but as you're putting on calendars and all of that stuff, our next meeting dates are there listed at the bottom, and it is extremely important. We miss this sometimes. The feedback form is really important to make sure that we are capturing our voices as well as our attendance, if you will. So please take the time to do that as it has become practice. If everyone will click that link right now, go ahead and open it up so that it's on your desktop. I'm not going to force everybody to finish it right now, but we're fingers crossed. If it's up on your desktop, eventually you'll get back around to it to give your feedback, and it helps Miss Stacy to know kind of how do we navigate things and building out the agenda and moving forward with our priorities. That said, I believe I've given enough time for everybody to have it up. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Tim Klein, motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Ginger Estes, I second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. Please go ahead and solidify your vote in the chat, please. Stacy, are we good? I can't see the chat. We're good. All right. We consider yourselves adjourned. I appreciate everyone's time. Thank you so much for your input. I'll see you all in September.